We are living in a simulation. It has been confirmed through multiple areas, whether that's science, spirituality, mysticism. Over thousands of years and even into modern science, we are talking about the holographic nature of reality. And this all sounds very abstract when we first hear it, and it's all confirmed through your own subjective experience. This is something I've definitely confirmed within my own journey when applying this information. It's like the number one mindset for navigating the human experience is understanding the link between in here and out there, and understanding the responsibility that we have when it comes to humans as we evolve and move forward. When we start to see and observe just how intimately the connection between in here and out there is, that knowledge really comes with so much responsibility. The person who is given true sight and vision also comes with high amounts of responsibility and on what to do with that knowledge. Because this could be very seen from the point of the ego. This could be its crowning jewel of form of manipulation and control. But when really it's the complete opposite of that, navigating the paradox of the human experience, it's got absolutely nothing to do with control. It's actually a lot to do with allowing and the power of our imagination. Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, two people that just popped to my mind there that talk about the power of imagination. And this, the imagination and the observer effect, what's spoken about in quantum mechanics, are very, very intimately connected. What we hold within and how we hold our inner vision and what we make up of that and what we hold in mind is then reflected onto the external world. We can see people change due to how we hold them in mind. And this is something I very much learned very intimately along the path of discovery and the spiritual journey, especially when it comes to mind purification, purifying the mind, the encouragement to keep going inward despite what's happening in the external world. To see the external world as just as a guidepost and a marker of what's happening within inside myself. Relationships are so important when it comes to this. I've found relationships in all aspects of the word relationships. Every single connection with another human has the opportunity to reflect back at me what's going on within. They also offer the opportunity to show me this connection and the holographic nature and the fluid changeability of reality, of how quickly it can change due to my level of consciousness of what's happening within me. If I'm in the vibration of fear, then that's being reflected back at me. If I'm in the consciousness level of anger, then that's going to be reflected back at me. If I then shift into the consciousness of courage, acceptance, neutrality, peace, then that's going to be reflected back at me. Each level of consciousness creates a different energetic pattern being reflected back at me. And this all could, on first hearing this, it can feel very abstract. But this is the encouragement I want to give you from this video and from this point moving forward, to be very aware about what's being reflected back at you. I want you to be very aware of the holographic universe that you are creating, because it's our level of consciousness when we evolve within ourselves that then influences the whole, and not just our direct environment, but also the totality of the human experience and everyone's single experience. This is when, if you want to help humanity, it's really about evolving your level of consciousness within the now moment, to move from anger and fear into courage is already a great advance and a very powerful, influential factor to the whole. And I want you to take different situations of your life. How is your life unfolding right now? And what is being reflected back at you? What holographic universe is being reflected back at you? How attuned are you to your nervous system dynamics? Have you noticed when you're in a state of fight or flight? What happens then? Have you noticed when you're in a state of shutdown? What happens then? What about a state of regulation when your nervous system goes into a state of emotional, energetic regulation? What's reflected back then? How do people change within the now moment, within an instant of how you shift? And how do you move yourself? And how do you evolve your nervous system forward to help influence, not control, not change, but positively influence and change the conditions of reality? Because that's all it is. Because once you have a plant, a little bit of water, a little bit of sun, or it offers the conditions for it to grow. And it's very similar to that. We're just changing the conditions of what's going on. We're understanding the capacity of what's going on within our mind. We're also understanding what's happening within inside our body. We're understanding the link between what happens with our body and then how that influences the mind, and then how the mind can influence what's going on within the body. And it's from those different conditions that we start to see and influence what's going on out there. How do things change? How do things move forward? What is the momentum of your life from different states of consciousness, different nervous system states? And consciousness and nervous system states are very intimately connected. We could look at the level of fear. When we're in a level of fear, we're in a sympathetic state, sympathetic nervous system state, volatility, reactivity, anger, heavily projecting onto the world, very, very reactive. So whether once we start to realign that inner nervous system dynamic and we start to come away from that, we start to harmonize the nervous system, we start to then shift and change what's going on out there. If we're in a state of reactivity inwardly, if we're coming from a sense and level of consciousness of fear, then the person in front of us is going to feel that and be influenced by that. So when they are reacting outwardly, there is a strong connection to what's going on within you. And it's really important that you prove this from your own subjective experience. When you're at a certain state, you can consciously put yourself in different nervous system states. You can consciously change your nervous system and level of consciousness very consciously. You can quite easily put yourself into a state of fear. We know that. We can talk ourselves into a state of fear. When we bring in the mind, if we bring in fantasies within the mind, we can start to activate that fear response just from self-talk and visualization alone. And then we could do the same. We could change. We could also influence our body by breathing differently. We can shift between fear and regulation, fear and peace, fear and love. We can even do that with the physiological aspects of how we breathe. And you can do this, you can shift and change at will, just as an interesting experiment within the human experience. And it's cool to be playful with it as well. It's really important to be playful with this process. But start understanding that. Like the next time you're in front of someone, deepen your awareness of the now moment. Deepen your awareness of how you feel in the now moment when you are with someone. Observe how they are responding to you. Observe and feel deeply how you are, but simultaneously how they are. If you feel there's this energy of fear or anger within the now moment, comes so deeply within yourself that you start to reflect that onto the other person. If you feel deeply regulated, but you keep coming into contact with an individual that is volatile, reactive to the world, when you're not with them, lovingly see them differently. It's when we're on our own as well that so much of the work is being done. When there's no one around, there's no one listening to us. The only person that is listening to us in that moment is God. In that moment, how we use our imagination, how we use our inner landscape within those moments when we're on our own, is the really where the powerful work is. Because you can have different situations and circumstances going off within your life, and I know that we all navigate through this. I'm sure you're thinking of someone right now in your life. It's really important as well. I found it really important when it comes to family dynamics, especially when it comes to the relationships of, say, our brothers, our sisters, our mums, our dads. They're relationships that we can't, more often than not, run away from. And if we do, that can sometimes be a state of avoidance. And I'm not saying sometimes the context and situation, sometimes it does involve having separation. But even if that does occur, how we hold them in mind when we're not around them is really important. Because if we separate ourselves from our family, but if we go away and we separate them and we see them and we label them as toxic, I don't want to be around them, this is how they are, we are not seeing them through truth. We have to see them through truth, no matter what they are reflecting back at us. So when we avoid people, and that's totally acceptable and it's totally cool, no shame at all. Sometimes it's really important to have distance and time away, but it's that distance, it's how we spend that time away. When we are away from them, we have to see them for what they truly are. And that is a child of God. That is a child of love. We have to see them through the eyes of love, that we have to look through our inner eye at those individuals when we're not around them. And what you'll find is if you consistently do that and go so deep within yourself, that when you do come back together, they will have transformed. Those, what we would have labeled as toxic characteristics earlier on, toxic dynamics. I feel like one of the most toxic traits is calling things toxic. All those labels that we would have slammed on them, if we've done the work correctly, if we've gone in and we've seen them through the inner eye, in their true state, dynamics will transform. When you get together, their habits and behaviors will be totally different. Love conquers all. And that love starts from how attuned you are to your inner eye and how you see things from an inner space. And the holographic universe, this is where it's at. This is where it's at. This is where it comes away from being abstract, it becomes very pragmatic and ultimately very real and true. You prove the holographic nature of the universe by your subjective experience and through your capacity of how you hold and see your inner world. And then you watch that from that stance, you see then everything change externally. And relationships is one of the key things that you'll notice straight away. So how you nurture things when you're on your own. How do you hold space for yourself? How do you see your life from within when you are on your own? What are you whispering to yourself about others? How are you seeing people? How are you seeing others from within? Are you seeing them from a state of truth or falsehood? How is your journey going on this? I'm not saying any of this flippantly. This is a very gradient line of going between extremely frustrated resistance to expansive, non-resistant place. We ebb and flow because the external world can be very enamoring. It can be very engulfing. It can be very hard not to focus on the external world, especially if we're around reactivity and volatility. To keep leaving that and going away and seeing someone lovingly is it can feel very challenging earlier on. This is where I feel the importance of devotion really kicks in, because we have to be devoted to the truth. We have to be devoted to consistently seeing people through the eyes of truth, through a clear lens. And for us to do that, it involves devotion and discipline, and they're two very intimately connected parts of being human. Because if we see someone a certain way that's through a conditioned lens, to consistently come back and see them differently, but through the eyes of truth, through our inner eye, takes repetition and devotion. And that in itself can be very challenging to start to sharpen that knife, shall we say, of repetition, to keep coming back, to see that person as they truly are. I'd really love to hear where you are with your journey when it comes to this, when it comes to how you are seeing the world, what world is being reflected back at you, what relationships are you finding challenging at the moment, what relationships are requiring you to go deeper within yourself to see that person differently, so you can not only help yourself transform, but help them transform as well. And this is where I feel this is how we change the world, from our own inner work, to change that reflection of what's coming back at us. So feel free, let me know in the comments, come and share. I think it's really important if you feel like you're resonant with this journey, to let us know what's unfolding in your life so we can come together and support each other. It's such an important thing for us to do. So until the next video, my friends, I cannot wait to see you then. And until then, take care.